So today's video is a short video on the Pythagorean Theorem. Specifically, we're going to talk about Pythagorean Theorem word problems. In this problem, we're given that we have a right circular cone with a given slant height, a given diameter, and we're asked to find the height of the cone. So to answer this problem, we really want to draw a diagram of a cone. Remember, a cone has a circular base and comes to a point. Since we're told the diameter of the cone is 24, the radius has to be half of that, so half of 24 is 12. The slant height of a cone runs from the vertex to the edge of the base. So since the slant height goes from the vertex to the edge of the base, that's going to go along this diagonal segment right here, and that's 20 meters. And we're asked to find the height of the cone, and we need to be aware that the height runs from the vertex perpendicular to the base. So that right angle symbol is drawn in right here. And I labeled the height with the variable h. So hopefully you'll see when you create these problems that you're going to end up with a situation where you have a right triangle. In my right triangle here, I know the hypotenuse is 20. I know that one of the legs of the right triangle is 12. And I'm going to find the other leg of the right triangle, which I called h, where h stands for the height, not the hypotenuse. So since we have two side lengths in a right triangle, we're asked to find the third side length. We're going to use Pythagorean Theorem, which says that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b represent the lengths of the legs and c represents the length of the hypotenuse. So h squared, the leg squared, plus 12 squared, the other leg squared, equals 20 squared. 12 squared is 144, 20 squared is 400. We subtract 144 from both sides of the equation. Take the square root of both sides, and I get h equals 16. My unit here is meters, so that it matches the other two given units. I have another example problem to show you. In this problem, we were asked to find the length of the second diagonal of a rhombus. If a side of the rhombus measures 12 centimeters, and the first diagonal measures 8 centimeters. So in order to do this problem, again, we have to draw a picture. When I draw my rhombus, there are some properties of a rhombus that are going to come into play here. One property is that all four sides of the rhombus are congruent. The other property is that the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular and bisect each other. If we don't know those properties, we'll have a real hard time answering this problem. So it says that one side of the rhombus is 12 centimeters. And one of the diagonals is 8 centimeters. Well, since the diagonals bisect each other, rather than writing that 8 centimeters on the diagonal, I'm going to write 4 centimeters on each side of the diagonal. I'm asked to find the length of the second diagonal, and rather than find the length of the second diagonal right away, I'm just going to find the length of a section of that second diagonal, because if I look closely, I have 4 right triangles that are all actually congruent. So in my right triangle here in the upper right, I don't know this section right here of leg, which I'm going to call x. I do know this section of leg, which is 4. And I know the hypotenuse, which is 12. So again, when you know two sides of a right triangle, looking for the third side, we use Pythagorean Theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. My legs are x and 4. My hypotenuse is 12, so I show that substitution step. I square the 4, I square the 12, I get 16 and 144. I subtract 16 from each side, take the square root of both sides. When I separate 128, I split that into the perfect square, 64, and the non-perfect square, 2. So x is 8 radical 2. I was asked to find the entire diagonal though. Since this section is x, this section down here would be x, so I'd have 8 radical 2 plus 8 radical 2, which is 16 radical 2. If you notice, I am missing a unit, since the other units that were given were centimeters. With my 16 radical 2, I should have the unit centimeters with that. Good luck on today's Pythagorean Theorem word problems.